How was NaNoCon, you ask? Well, I spent a good portion of my evening getting drunk with a bunch of atheists and trans people before waking up underground next to Joe Kindick this morning, if that tells you anything.
And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man.
That's right.
Of the seed of man.
The word seed is sperm, and sperm comes through having sex.
It's shut out of your father's rod.
Right.
Put it in layman terms, in his penis.
That's right.
That means a man put his penis in a woman and bust off on it.
Then the angel said to him, "Take out the entrails of this fish, and lay up his heart and his gall and his liver for thee. For these are necessary for useful medicines."
The rest of the chapters of the book of Esther,
Go ahead.
which are found neither in the Hebrew nor in the Chaldee.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is in my arms, demanding attention, because he missed me. Yes, you did, you little bugger. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cat. Get over it. This is a Biblical Apocrypha episode and a NaNoCon wrap-up. I will start by talking about NaNoCon before I get to boring you with this week's selection from the Apocrypha. There's no guest this week, as I normally record on Saturdays, and since that's when NaNoCon was happening, I didn't book anybody. I brought my gear to NaNoCon in case I had a chance to record something, but that didn't happen. I need to thank Adam Fusen for taking me to NaNoCon, and then Joe Kindick for driving me home the next day. It's hard for me to compare this year's NaNoCon to last year's. As last year, I just showed up and hung out. This year, I actually did something. I was on a podcasting panel, so I was doing that when I would have normally been either watching a panel or hanging out with people. I do have to give a shout out to Callie, Robin, Brandon, and Steve, who are all folks I've known via a Facebook group for some time, who all live in Tennessee, but never got to meet. It was a blast. I also got to meet a fellow Tennessee atheist podcaster, Brian, from the Scenic City Skeptic podcast. And I'll have a link to his podcast in the show notes. There's a bit of supreme irony in that it was held at a church, but a bonus over last year's event is that there was plenty of booze. Last year we held it at a public school, and you're not allowed to have alcohol on school grounds according to state law. We had around 500 people show up. I don't know what the attendance level was for last year, but I think that this year's was definitely larger. We also had a very diverse crowd as well, which was nice, and in addition to the potluck lunch, there were food trucks there as well. I did manage to get to see Callie Wright give a very moving talk about how religion destroyed her relationship with her grandmother, as well as hear Matt Dillahunty speak, and met just a shit ton of other people. Did not get to see Bobby C. and Miss Ashley as they had a family emergency, which prevented them from coming. And Heretic Woman didn't show up either for reasons I don't know, because I thought she was coming. Now, there was a minor downside that I'll mention, and it'll explain the opening sting. There was an after party at a bar in downtown Nashville. The NaNoCon folks did a great job in their prep for this in many ways. They rented out the second floor of the bar, so we didn't have to worry about there being any kind of clashes, but they forgot to tell us this, so the group I was with got there, went into the bar, and were confused because we didn't see anybody we knew in the crowd. It was only after we walked to the back of the bar that we saw some stairs, decided to follow them, and then discovered that's where everyone was. The bar was also a country bar with a live band. Several, actually. And the second floor really didn't have anywhere that was isolated from the sound unless you went outside on the patio. So, if like me, you don't care for country music, you're stuck listening to it. And Joe Kendick, for some odd reason, didn't like my idea of heavy metal country music. You also had to shout to have a conversation. I will say that the bar staff were a great bunch of people, and all of us enjoyed talking to them. I do hope everyone tipped generously. The other issue I had with it is that the bar was on Broadway in Nashville. For those of you not familiar with Nash Vegas, Broadway is one of the streets in Nash Vegas, and it's where everybody goes. There's also a lot of construction going on in the area, so getting around is like trying to move through a mosh pit while dodging scaffolding and traffic. Still, I'm glad I went, as I got to hang out with Carla Lewis and her wife and discovered that not only is she local to me, but the two of us have a mutual interweb friend, as well as having a lot of nice conversations with other folks who were there. Now, how Joe and I wound up underground after all this ties in with where the bar was located. We parked in an underground garage, which closes from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. We left the bar at like 2 in the morning, got to his car, and Joe said, "I really need a 30-minute nap." I set the alarm on my phone for 30 minutes, and the two of us fell asleep. When my alarm went off, I couldn't wake Joe up, so I just went back to sleep. I woke up sometime later, realized that it was after 3, we were still in the garage, so no point in trying to get Joe up, and nodded off again. I woke up at 5 a.m. to the sound of Joe starting the car. We left and crashed at Joe's place until around 11 a.m. when he dropped me off. There are some pics that I took, and I've uploaded them to the show's Facebook page. I didn't take as many as I would have liked, as I was on the panels, and stupid me didn't bring my phone charger, so by the time I got to the bar, my phone was about dead, and I couldn't take very many pics there. That, by the way, is the barest description of what all happened. I couldn't even begin to recount all the fun things that I talked about with the folks there, how many hugs I got, how many new people I'm now Facebook friends with, and so on. But there's few things more annoying than someone telling you how great a time they had at a party you didn't go to, so I'll stop now. I will say that I really wished I had a car yesterday because one of the bartenders was awfully cute. But it's kind of hard to pick someone up when you have to say, "Hey, baby, how's about we go back to your place and then tomorrow you can drive me 40 miles to my house before driving back home alone to your place?" I will also say that if you've got doubts about going to an atheist convention, go. You will have fun, even if you are, like many of us there, someone who has social anxiety issues. I've got them too, but I'm going to ReasonCon because I know how much fun it is and how good it is to be able to network with people who share the same lack of belief as you do. And I'm doing it, even though I have found out that there's going to be someone there who has shit all over me in the past. The short version of the story is that back in October or so, their cat got sick with the same kind of symptoms that Houdini later developed. And like me, they didn't have the money to get the cat to the vet right away. Their cat did recover, and when Houdini got sick, I reached out to them for advice because I wanted to know what they might have done that had enabled their cat to survive. They waited a day to respond to me and said, "Stick a finger up his ass. That's what the vet did to mine." As you can imagine, that answer didn't sit well with me at all, and still doesn't. I've explained the situation to our mutual friends who are going, telling them to run interference between the two of us so we don't encounter one another, and I'll also be staying sober to keep me from being that guy who gets drunk and ruins everything for everyone. But I'm still going because I know that the experience of being with other atheists outweighs any negativity I might feel by bumping into that person. And for those of you wondering how Fuzznuts handled my being gone for the day, well, he's not exactly thrilled with me. He knew something was up yesterday morning as I was moving about earlier than I normally do on a Saturday. I did give him a can of wet food as a bit of a bribe before I left. When I got home, however, I discovered that, as punishment, he filled his litter box. Seriously, I'd cleaned it out the night before, and when I got home this morning, it looked like my toilet does after a night of binge drinking and Taco Bell. He's been a bit standoffish since then, but hopefully he'll have completely forgiven me by the time it comes for me to go to ReasonCon. All right, let's get to the Apocrypha. This first selection is Prologue to Wisdom of Jesus, Son of Sirach. Yes, Fuzznuts. A prologue made by an uncertain author. Really? Like you know who wrote any of this other shit? This Jesus was the son of Sirach, and grandchild to Jesus of the same name with him. This man therefore lived in the latter times. Well, that narrows it down. After the people had been led away captive and called home again. Okay, whatever. And almost after all the prophets. Okay. Now his grandfather, Jesus, as he himself witnesseth, was a man of great diligence and wisdom among the Hebrews, who did not only gather the grave and short sentences of wise men that had been before him, but himself also uttered some of his own, full of much understanding and wisdom. When, as therefore, the first Jesus died, dun dun dun, leaving this book almost perfected, Sirach, his son, receiving it after him, left it to his own son, Jesus, who, having gotten it into his hands, compiled it all orderly into one volume, and called it Wisdom, intuiting, that's what it looks like, is intuitling. To the Googles! What the fuck is this goddamned word? Intuitling. Give a specified title to. Right then. That makes absolutely no sense. It both by his own name, his father's name, and his grandfather's. Alluring the hearer by the very name of wisdom to have a greater love to the study of this book. It containeth, therefore, wise sayings, dark sentences, and parables, and certain particular ancient godly stories of men that pleased God. Also his prayer and song. Moreover, what benefits God had vouchsafed his people, and what plagues he had heaped upon their enemies. This Jesus did imitate Solomon, and was no less famous for wisdom and learning, both being indeed a man of great learning, and so reputed also. The prologue of the wisdom of Jesus, the son of Sirach. Whereas, many and great things have been delivered unto us by the law and the prophets, and by others that have followed their steps, for which things Israel ought to be commended for learning and wisdom, and many and great things, let me start that fucking sentence over again. God damn, I hate these run-on cocksucking. Whereas many and great things have been delivered unto us by the laws and the prophets, and by others that have followed their steps, for which things Israel ought to be commended for learning and wisdom. And many and great things have been delivered unto us by the law and the... Now, God damn it, I just keep looping back to this thing. Whereas many and great things have been delivered unto us by the law and the prophets, and by others that have followed their steps, for the which things Israel ought to be commended for learning and wisdom, and whereof not only the readers must needs become skillful themselves, but also they that desire to learn be able to profit them which are without, both by speaking and writing. My grandfather Jesus, when he had much given himself to the reading of the law and the prophets and other books of our fathers, and had gotten therein good judgment, was drawn on also himself to write something pertaining to learning and wisdom, to the intent that those which are desirous to learn and are addicted to these things might profit much more in living according to the law. God fucking damn! Henry Miller would tell you that's a run-on sentence that needs to be chopped the fuck up. And he wrote entire books that were nothing but a single run-on sentence, practically. Wherefore, let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words, which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. For in the 8th and 30th years coming into Egypt, when Euergetes, who the fuck is that asswipe? Was the third king in the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, born in 285 BCE, died in 222 BCE. Tells me absolutely fucking nothing. Thanks, guys. I'm not digging into the rest of it. And where the hell was I? Oh, yes. For in the 8th and 30th year, coming into Egypt, when Euergetes was king and continuing there some time, I found a book of no small learning. Therefore, I thought it most necessary for me to bestow some diligence and travail to interpret it, using great watchfulness and skill in that place to bring the book to an end, and set it forth for them also, which in a strange country are willing to learn, being prepared before in manners to live after the law. The fuck? That was some weapons-grade gibberish there, my friends. Freaking Joseph Smith would be proud of that kind of gibberish. All right. Let's go to the next one, which is Wisdom of Jesus, son of Sirach, which, if I understood the garbled nature of that prologue, this could be the Jesus who was the grandfather of Sirach, or the Jesus who was the son of Sirach. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways. All wisdom cometh from the Lord, and is with him forever. Who can number the sand of the sea, and the drops of rain, and the days of eternity? Who can find out the height of heaven, and the breadth of the earth, and the deep, and wisdom? Who can take a sunrise, sprinkle it in dew, cover it in chocolate, and a miracle or two? The Candy Man can. Sorry, that just popped into my head while I was reading that. Wisdom hath been created before all things. Funny, I don't remember that in the story of Genesis. And the understanding of prudence from everlasting. Okay, too bad God didn't give Adam and Eve that before Eve ate the apple. The word of God Most High is the fountain of wisdom, and her ways are everlasting commandments. To whom hath the root of wisdom been revealed, or who hath known her wise counsels? Unto whom hath the knowledge of wisdom been made manifest, and who hath understood her great experience? The Candy Man can't. Sorry. There is one wise and greatly to be feared, the Lord sitting upon his throne. Taco Bell, buddy. That's what God had. He had lots of booze and Taco Bell. He created her, and saw her, and numbered her, and poured her out upon all his works. I bet he did. She is with all flesh according to his gift, and he hath given her to him that love him. The fear of the Lord is honor, and glory, and gladness, and a crown of rejoicing. The fear of the Lord maketh a merry heart, and giveth joy, and gladness, and a long life. Whoso feareth the Lord, it shall go well with him at the last, and he shall find favor in the day of his death. Oh, yeah, forget all the other days, but on the day you're dying, oh man, you're right there. God's gonna love you and give you all the shit you would have done. That is the fucking cruelest thing ever. There you are, you work and slave your entire life away to get this thing that matters most to you. Be it a family, be it a house, be it a job, be it whatever. And at that moment when you're like, oh yes, this is awesome. This is the greatest day of my life. Oh fuck. Perfection. God fucking kills ya. That is pretty much the dick move of all dick moves. And now I have to find my place again. To fear the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with the faithful in the womb. She hath built an everlasting foundation with men, and she shall continue with their seed. I bet she will. To fear the Lord is fullness of wisdom, and filleth men with her fruits. So they're going anal, baby! She filleth all their house with things desirable, and the garners with her increase. The fear of the Lord is a crown of wisdom, making peace and perfect health to flourish, both of which are the gifts of God, and it enlargeth their rejoicing that love him. Wisdom raineth down skill and knowledge of understanding, standing. The fuck? And exalteth them to honor that hold her fast. The root of wisdom is to fear the Lord, and the branches thereof are long life. The fear of the Lord driveth away sins, and where it is present, it turneth away wrath. A furious man cannot be justified, for the sway of his fury shall be his destruction. A patient man will tear for a time, and a patient man will tear for a time. Good old precise English there. And afterward, joy shall spring up unto him. Baby. He will hide his words for a time, and the lips of many shall declare his wisdom. So that's a wise man keeps his mouth shut and is thought foolish. Whatever, the saying I'm talking about, And I lost my train of thought, so let's go on. The fear of the Lord driveth away sins, and where it is present, it turneth away wrath. A furious man cannot be justified, for the sway of his fury shall be his destruction. I'm gonna disagree with that. A patient man will tear... I have read all this, and I don't remember any of it. He will hide his words for a time, and the lips of many shall declare his wisdom. That's where I was. The parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom, but godliness is an abomination to a sinner. Well, I don't think gays are the ones going around killing people for being Christian. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I don't think it's gays throwing people off the roofs of buildings because they don't, somebody's a Muslim. But I could be wrong on that. If thou desire wisdom, keep the commandments, and the Lord shall give her unto thee. Baby. For the fear of the Lord is wisdom and instruction, and faith and meekness are his delight. Sure they are. Distrust not the fear of the Lord when thou art poor, and come not unto him with a double heart. Okay? That is a rare transplant surgery, but it does happen from what I understand. Be not an hypocrite. Okay, I think it should be not a, but whatever, in the sight of men, and take good heed what thou speakest. Okay, so you can it's okay to be a hypocrite in the sight of God, so long as you're not a hypocrite in the sight of man. Makes perfect sense, right? Right, Fussnuts? You little purr monster? Exalt not thyself, lest thou fall and bring dishonor upon thy soul. And so God discover thy secrets. Wait, so if you don't say anything about that shit, God won't know it? And cast thee down in the midst of the congregation, because thou camest not in truth to the fear of the Lord, but thy heart is full of deceit. Thus ends the first chapter. Here's the second one, which is a shorty, baby. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright, and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble. Cleave unto him, and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright, and trust in him. Ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside, lest ye fall. Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Oh God, Jesus, please give me a big dick. Jesus, please give me a big dick. Ye that fear the Lord, hope for good, and for everlasting joy and mercy. Look at the generations of old, and see, did ever any trust in the Lord, and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear, and was forsaken? Job's family? I'm just... or whomever did he despise that called upon him? Job's family? Woe be to fearful hearts. So hearts that are afraid. Did you just not get done saying that people should be afraid of God? I'm so confused. And faint hands. Well, yeah, that's a bummer, man. And the sinner that goeth 2 ways. No. Bi women are awesome. And I know that there are some women out there who really get off on the side of 2 guys going at it together. So I guess, I'm a liberated modern man. I'm willing to say that bisexual men are awesome, even if I'm not bisexual. Okay. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted. Okay. For he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. Woe unto you that have lost patience, and what will ye do when the Lord shall visit you? Well, I'll change my ways, or ask the doctor to adjust my medication. They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word. Yet, if you have a fearful heart, you should suffer woe. And they that love him will keep his ways. Yeah, buddy. Cannot tell you of all the people who love Jesus and do all kinds of things that he says not to do. They that fear the Lord shall have woe. Oh, wait, no. Will seek that which is well, pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the law. Really? There's a Judge Dredd joke in there that I'm not gonna make. They that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight. Saying, we will fall into the hands of the Lord and not into the hands of men. For as his majesty is, so is his mercy. Ever seen that documentary, The Falling Man, about the guy who jumped from the World Trade Center on 9/11? Really disturbing. Hear me, your father, O children, and do thereafter that ye may be safe. Okay? For the Lord hath given the father honor over the children. Yeah, that's right. Your dad is gonna fuck your shit up. And hath confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. That's confusing. Whoso honor... Wait, this doesn't matter. So, if mom's... Let's say mom's pushing, 60s or later. Her husband dies. Are her sons, who are by this point grown men, supposed to obey her? Even if she remarries and whatever? Man, this is just weird. Whoso honoreth his father maketh an atonement for his sins. Okay. And he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. Whoso honoreth his father shall have joy of his own children, and when he maketh his prayer, he shall be heard. Boy. I'm just gonna say that there's a whole lot of people with daddy issues who would disagree with that statement. And when he maketh his prayer, he shall be heard. He that honoreth his father shall have a long life, and he that is obedient unto the Lord shall be a comfort to his mother. Okay. Now I have to address this. I'm ignoring some of the other family drama that's gone on over the years, but this part I can't resist. Okay? So, my paternal grandparents were forced to divorce shortly after my father was born. This is in the 1930s in a small town in Ohio, when such things were not done. They were forced to do this, however, because my grandmother's parents didn't like my grandfather, and my grandfather's parents didn't like my grandmother. My grandmother shortly thereafter remarried because the idea of a single mother supporting a child in 1932 is just unfathomable. So, my father never knew his biological father. He decided to do research on his family tree, etc., and find his biological father when he was roughly my age now. He found out that his father had died just a couple of years before that. which would have put his father at a relatively young age for dying. Early 70s. No, late 60s, now that I think about it, because my grandmother died. Actually, I think it was after my grandmother died that my dad started doing it. She died when I was 16, and she was in her early 70s. So my father, my biological grandfather died at a young age. And he obeyed his father and divorced my grandmother because that's what his father wanted. So, fuck you. Fucking fuck you. As for the rest of the verse, and he that is obedient unto the Lord shall be a comfort to his mother. Oh, boy, there's some family issues there. Yeah, my grandmother, never mind. We'll just go on from there. He that feareth the Lord will honor his father, and will do service. Servicing your parents, will do service unto his parents as to his masters. Wow, that is oh, God. If you've read anything at all about slavery, this is absolutely the most disturbing thing you can read right now. Oh, God. Honor thy father and mother, both in word and deed, that a blessing may come upon thee from them. Yeah, so kiss your parents' ass so they won't be dicks to you. Or, even if they are dicks to you, still kiss their ass because maybe they'll give you something. For the blessing of the father establisheth the houses of children, but the curse of the mother rooteth out foundations. Glory not in the dishonor of thy father, for thy father's dishonor is no glory unto thee. Yeah, okay. Right, so your father's a mass-murdering bastard, you help bring him to justice, and instead of saying, yes, I got a mass murderer, it's like, oh, I'm so ashamed, I ratted out my dad, huh? Is that what that means? Seems to be. For the glory of a man is from the honor of his father. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. And a mother in dishonor is a reproach to the children. Again, fuck you. Fucking fuck you. My son, help thy father in his age, and grieve him not as long as he liveth. Oh, boy. The shit my dad has done that I could tell you about. One woman I could have married. But my dad was such an asshole to her every time we left his place after being there for an event. She was in tears. And not, I might add, because of what he said to her, but because of what he said to me. Yeah. And she was Vietnamese, raised in Vietnam. So for her to think that my father was dishonoring me, that says an awful lot. But that's another issue for another time. And if his understanding fail, have patience with him. Fuck you. Fucking fuck you. I remember my non-biological grandfather was having mental problems. He was clearly developing senility. And I was over at my dad's house one time, and Grandpa walks in with the cordless phone and is punching buttons on it saying, I can't get this remote to change the channel on the TV. And I said to my stepmother and my dad, have you had Grandpa checked out? He seems a little befuddled. We might want to have him checked to see if he's not developing Alzheimer's. Oh, no, he's fine. He's fine. Yeah, okay. Don't get him treatment so that Grandpa could, live out his declining years in good health, alert, and understanding what's going on around him, just pretend nothing's wrong, that, well, he just doesn't understand because he's never seen a cordless phone before. This is back when cordless phones were big, huge, giant monstrosities. And TV remotes didn't look that much different than they do now. Had fewer buttons, maybe, but, you know. Of course, I don't know anything. I'm just the asshole. And despise him not when thou art in thy full strength. Okay. For the relieving of thy father, huh? So your dad's taking a piss? Is that what this means? Shall not be forgotten. Yeah, don't forget what your dad's like when he takes a big old horse piss. And instead of sins, it shall be added to build thee up. Let him piss on you, huh? Oh, boy. In the day of thine affliction, it shall be remembered. Thy sins also shall melt away as the ice in the fair warm weather. I'm confused. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So we'll go on to the next one. He that forsaketh his father is as a blasphemer. Okay, but what if your father blasphemes God, and therefore you forsake him so that you can be closer to God, as Jesus commands you to do? And he that angereth his mother is cursed. Yes. As Bill Cosby, or excuse me, as I should say, the rapist Bill Cosby has said, the mother's curse. I hope that when you grow up, you have children just like you. Hey, Mom! Now you know why I haven't had any kids! Ha ha! Of God. My son, go on with thy business in meekness. So... Really? That seems kind of contradictory to current conservative Christian thought as expressed by the Republican Party. You know, when they say things like greed, for lack of a better term, is good. So shalt thou be beloved of him that is approved. Whatever. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before the Lord. I believe President Trump would disagree with that one. Many are in high place, and of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. Yeah, okay. Fuck you. That's why the meek guy always gets laid at the parties. Son of a bitch, you snap. Alright. For the power of the Lord is great, and he is honored of the lowly. And maybe if the lowly spent less time honoring God, they wouldn't be so lowly. They'd realize they are being treated like shit and rise up against their oppressors. Just saying. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee. But I thought with God all things were possible. Neither search the things that are above thy strength. In other words, know your place and stay there, bitch. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. Huh? Know your place, bitch, and be glad for it. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. So you don't need to be meek, because if you're meek, you'll find out the things that are mysterious. Wow. I'm so confused! Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are shewed unto thee than men understand. How do you define what's necessary? That's a good question. And there's so many more. For many are deceived by their own vain opinion. Can't fault that at all. Absolutely 100% correct. And an evil suspicion hath overthrown their judgment. I'm gonna let that one go. Without eyes, thou shalt want light. Okay. Now, I just want to point out here that there's an interesting fact that a lot of people don't know. Blind people aren't necessarily blind like we think of them. Because we think, well, if you're blind, you can't see. Because the weird way the eyeball is designed, almost as if it happened by random chance and not somebody set out to specifically design the thing, is that the very, directly back of the pupils on the retina, humans are literally blind in that area. We can detect light and dark. That's it. We can't pick anything else out, whereas the rest of the retina can pick out images, etc., etc. And many people who are blind, the parts of their eyes that can detect the difference between lightness and darkness still work. These people have no problems sleeping because their biological clocks are able to sync up with the sun as everyone else's, as normally sighted people's eyes do. So their biological clock says, bright light, I should be awake. No light, I should be asleep. Blind people who are absolutely blind, whose optic nerves cannot transmit light and dark to their brain, even though that these people have no recognition in the difference between light and dark, have trouble sleeping. They have insomnia because their body can't figure out the light and dark receptors at the directly back of your pupils are designed simply to say there's light, there's darkness, and your conscious brain doesn't pick it up. Your subconscious does. And so long as that works, you can have a normal sleep cycle. But if that's gone and you're blind, you can't have a normal sleep cycle. I'm not doing a great job in describing it, but trust me, it's true, and if you Google around, you can find it. Sorry. Profess not the knowledge, therefore, that thou hast not. Okay, that, I can't argue with that. Don't be a bullshitter, Mr. President. A stubborn heart shall fare evil at the last. Okay. But persistence is considered a good thing because if you persist at something against all odds and you will succeed and therefore make something of yourself. Yeah, okay. And he that loveth danger shall perish therein. Yeah, adrenaline junkies do tend to die sometimes, but whatever. An obstinate heart shall be laden with sorrows. Okay? And the wicked man shall heap sin upon sin. Well, depends on how you define wicked and sin. In the punishment of the proud, there is no remedy. Yeah, somehow I don't think that a certain proud tangerine tyrant is going to get punished. I could be wrong. For the plant of wickedness hath taken root in him. The heart of the prudent will understand a parable, and an attentive ear is the desire of a wise man. Water will quench a flaming fire, and alms maketh an atonement for sins. Yeah. You give me money and I'll forgive your shit. Maybe. And he that requireth good turns is mindful of that which may come hereafter. And when he falleth, he shall find a stay. Help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Okay. I'm going to wrap this up because it's getting late and we're at about the 45-minute mark, and that's close to an hour. I apologize. I am tired. I do have to get to bed. And I'm an old man. I can't have fun like I used to. But I will be back with America next week, and we will have juicy stories to tell.
That's it for this episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, as well as just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. Many of the episodes are also on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter. @TParkAtheist is the show's Twitter handle. It's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.